Kathleen Wiley, a Jungian psychoanalyst in North Carolina, and I am here with Deborah Henson-Conant, a composer, a mentor, a coach, and a fantastic entertainer and harpist. And we both play the harp, and that's why we call this Jung at Harp. Almost every week, we come together with the question that we want to explore. So we don't have the answers, but we are exploring and invite you to explore with us vis-a-vis commenting in the chat a question. And today our question is, what does it take to fully share your creative self? And we're going to look at that in terms of embodying, imparting, and release. So embody, impart, release to share fully your creative self. So DHC, do you want to start us off here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things I just want to share with everybody, and I don't know if we do this enough, is how we came to have these conversations. Is that we were having, I was visiting down near where you live, doing a concert, and I was staying at your house, and you were hosting me, and we had a conversation in the car, and realized that we really loved exploring questions together. And so then we started exploring questions with all of you, because you can actually chat with us. So this question came up because this idea of how do we fully express ourselves, and it came up because this weekend I was doing, yesterday, the day before, I was doing a countdown concert fundraiser for my musical, The Golden Cage, which has just been released into the world. And on the call were, people from all over the world, including people who are in my academy. And I was performing. And when I was talking to my coach about this, I was talking about how sometimes people get confused, like, who am I? I mean, why am I writing a musical about bird people? And, but I'm a harpist. Like, why am I a harpist? And I was trying to explain how these are all the same thing, that it is about fully expressing myself. And my coach came up with these words. She said, "Oh, I see. So when you're performing, it's like you're embodying your creative self. And when you're training others, or when you're teaching, and you're imparting that to others, you're empowering them and imparting it. And when the Golden Cage, or any piece of music that I release when I publish, so even if I'm not here on this planet or whatever, that piece then goes into the hands of others and gets reinvented and recreated. That's releasing." And we realized that this was a way to really look at the fact that what I do in the world is I tell stories with music. That's what connects everything. And that it's the embodiment in performance, the imparting in the teaching and coaching, and the release to others of stories that I'm not even going to perform myself. And I believe that that's true of any mature artist. When we're very young, we may be just focusing on one particular part of our career, learning how to be a performer, or we go into teaching, and maybe, for a while we're just teaching, and it takes a while for us to come back and look at the performance and the embodiment. But I find that this is a full life. It's a full life, and it opens up so many different types of actually fully and completely sharing. Because, as you know, when you share, so much comes back. A reflection. We're getting that funny sound, by the way, but let's keep going.
Okay.
So so what I'm saying about the funny sound, we're having this technical problem, and we're actually going to try to record it today so that we can send it to the tech support people. So if you hear it sounding weird for a while, and it is, we're going to let that sound weird for a little bit. So anyway, Kathleen, why don't you say something unimportant so we can hear?
Something unimportant. I'm thinking about how fully sharing our creative self, or our full self, really does require embodying.
Okay, I'm going to stop you, ask you to stop your sound, start it again. We got that on tape now. And then if you can just start again, but we'll be able to hear you without the garbly.
Is that good? I muted and came back.
No.
So garbly.
So garbly.
Let me try one other thing here. All right.
We've been many times we've actually stopped sharing
Okay.
because now you sound really far away.
I sound far away. Is
Okay.
that better?
Yep. Okay, good. All right, carry
All right.
on.
And when I get garbly again, we'll do the same thing again.
Perfect.
Um, embodying, we are embodying our process here. The unconscious is giving us an object lesson. Okay. I mean, I'm laughing about it, but in a way to embody, we have to be willing to go with the flow. And I think that going with the flow, I had said off camera, when we release something, it's like putting it in the river of life and letting the waters take it on downstream. And we don't know where it's going to end up. We don't know if it's going to go on to various ports and lots of people experience it, or if it's going to end up in kind of a cove where it gets caught forever. We don't know. So there is something about embodying that implies what we talked about last week, which is trust and releasing that we aren't trying to control it. Because once something's embodied, we don't have control cognitively anymore. It takes on its own life because the body consciousness has its own intelligence.
Okay, I want to ask about that. So,
Okay.
all right. So, wow. So I've been noticing, first of all, I mean, I'm always aware of my embodiment of when I'm playing the harp, but when I'm preparing for a performance, I will videotape myself and I will look at myself and I'll be like, whoa, you are starting to get much more inward, or here's a perfect example. I used to have this long, long, long dreadlock hair and I got used to just like swinging it around and it created a lot of movement in my playing. When I cut that hair off, I looked at myself on video and I was not moving. I'd started relying on the swing of that hair. And I realized that I had to start moving from a much more central part of me in order to have that level of movement that I love to see in performance. So I have it that something starts inhibiting us from embodying. And I think, I mean, you're a Jungian psychoanalyst, and I'm assuming that people come to you because there's something blocking their self-expression.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that whether they are embodying their self-expression as whether that block is in their ability to express themselves through their body, whether that block is in their ability to impart what they want to others, or whether that block is like someone who's been trying to write a book forever and can't. That would be a block in release. What how would you approach each of these?
Well, each individual, of course, is a different situation. Um, I want to just speak to this generally because I think all of us do have areas that are like this. Is our primitive psyche, meaning our unconscious psyche, does stop blocking free expression as we grow up because sometimes the way we express is not well received by the adults who are taking care of us. So, children throwing temper tantrums typically don't get a lot of reinforcement for that from their parents or caregivers. And so some of the blocking of expression begins very, very early. I mean, like, birth to 2 years old, where we begin to be socialized and some behaviors on our part are reinforced with attention and some are not. And so part of what happens that inhibits free expression is the socialization process. The problem is that sometimes the block that serves us at 2, 3, or 4 in our expression becomes the block that inhibits our creative expression or our having our appropriate assertiveness and voice and relationship, or our ability to stand with ourselves to just say, that doesn't feel good to me and I'm not going to participate. So we have to go back to the early blocks when it comes to those kinds of things. I do think a lot of creative expression, some creative expression is the way that people get around those blocks. So people can express. There are many great artists who are genius artists, but the rest of their life they're a mess because they could find and they felt safe with the free expression in their creative arts, but they could never ever access that for their own personal life and their personal self. Um, so I think what you and I are talking about and what we're both aspiring for is that we can have an expression within our artistic endeavors and our creative endeavors, as well as our personal life, where who we are can be fully present. And again, we each have to look at what are the censors and the filters that we've internalized, the shoulds, must, and ought tos, the expectations, the ideas about what should be and what shouldn't be. These are all the kinds of things that can keep us from embodying. And it seems, a little bit even redundant to say, but there's no way we can impart to others or release something into the world if we're not embodying it ourselves.
I'm here. Thank you. And by the way, just in this last moment, it started garbling again.
Okay.
So as you're speaking about this, about free expression and embodying the free expression, I'm thinking about what I've been teaching in the academy this quarter. So this quarter has been called Grounded Expansion. And I've been teaching a very complex piece of music, but I've been teaching it by breaking it down. And my hope is that by breaking it down to its fundamentals, people will be able to actually embody it. And then, so I'm imparting a way of breaking down this piece that has become very complex in a way that hopefully it will develop self-expression in people. And, in order to do that, I took a piece that, what I realized was that this piece started out very simple. It's, it's just very simple melody, but then it has this and then it becomes wilder and wilder and wilder, and it's all about the the fun of being able to express ourselves, like we're harpists, but to be able to express ourselves as if we were a flamenco dancer. So it's a way of embodying. But if since it's taken me years to develop and discover all these things, if people try to come to the end of the process with me and jump in and be like, oh, I want to do what you're doing at the end, it's often very difficult because they haven't gotten to embody it all the way along. And yet, since they aren't seeing that for many years, that was literally, that's what it was. And my body and my mind, I grounded in that, and then I was able to expand and expand and expand. And now it's come to, to a point at which I can release it into the world. So now it's a concerto, and advanced harpists are able to take on, because they've spent their lives developing their technical ability, they can take it on, play it as it is with a symphony orchestra, and really connect to an audience through it. But people who are just beginning the harp, especially adults beginning the harp as an adult, I feel that I need to impart to them the journey of this piece. Right. And create the journey of developing facility and developing an expanded vocabulary through starting at the simplest version and moving forward. And this is what gets me very frustrated when I'm trying to learn new technology, is that I will see this, oh, somebody did this amazing thing, and I have to learn to, and I'm rarely taught the fundamentals. So this is the imparting, I think this is the beauty of one-on-one imparting, is that, you can make a class and you can teach people how, and that can be something that they can go and they can watch. But imparting, means that you are looking at that person and you are parting it apart, so that you can give it to them in a way that's actually going to empower them, versus here's the thing, do it, do it the way I did it. When you release it, you're sharing, look, this is my version of this. Okay. This is how I did it. There you go. This is how I see it, if it's a book. And then you're like, my hands are off.
Uh-huh.
You're going to recreate this in some way, or you're going to re-understand it, or it's going to come into your life, but my hands are off it. So in the first, I'm within my body. In the second, my hands are literally, in a sense, on the other person, although they're not, because it's virtually. And then in the third, my hands are off, and your hands have taken the place of my hands, and your development has taken the place of my development. Okay, where did I go with this, and why did I?
Well, I think what you're talking about is that when we show up and share ourself, whether, and in this case, share our creative self, that we have to recognize that what we're embodying is specific to us, that we each embody differently. So for you with Baroque Flamenco, you embodied that, and that piece in the concerto evolved over time. So when you go to impart it, part of what you're saying is you realize you don't want to just impart the finished piece, but you want to impart your understanding of the journey and the various components and the increased dexterity and facility and technique that evolved for you over the years, so that you also want to impart, okay, the embodiment as it's what's being released for the concerto is not the way it came to me. It came to me in this much more gradual process. And in imparting that, you actually are giving people permission and inviting them to make space to be in their own process. And so there's also a kind of releasing that you're doing by just imparting your process. Yes, you're releasing the final piece, the concerto, and people will do what they want with that. But you're also releasing this understanding of the journey of what it means to embody, whether it's embody the creative project or what. Yeah.
Okay, so you're it's starting to garble again.
Okay.
So you can switch. We're going to get a really great video, audio to give to the tech people. So my question, I mean, I have just come to an understanding of this in my own life. I've just come to an understanding of this in my own life. That these things aren't disparate. They're all part of creative expression, the embodiment, the imparting, and the release. And I have it, as you are talking, that when we share our process, that's a part of the imparting. That is, I mean, maybe that's what it is. I mean, if I just said, okay, this is what I did, do it. This is how I did. That's how you do it. I have it that's not really imparting. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's fine. I mean, that's what release is. Although I'm always hoping that people will see what my intention was in the written sheet music and understand, oh, she wants that, what she's seeing here is fire. Okay, how do I give that fire? Do I give that fire? That's really interesting. That's so interesting. I just flashed on something. I just flashed on when I first started playing the harp as an adult, because I started as an adult, but I quickly got jobs in orchestras. I could not read music, but I understood how it worked. And I remember looking at a piece by Tchaikovsky, and called Mozartiana. And I looked at it and I was like, this is really hard. Why is it? This looks like a piano part. What? I don't get it. And I went and I looked at the score and I was like, I'm not, that left hand, no one's going to hear that. That's being played by the cellos. I'm not going to play it. I think Tchaikovsky really wants this to be heard. So I'm going to double this thing so it really comes out. So on the one hand, I felt like I was cheating because I was making it easier for myself. On the other hand, I was like, are you going to get fired? I mean, you're not playing what Tchaikovsky wrote, but what I was trying to do was look at what Tchaikovsky intended and may not have known how to write, or may have given to an apprentice to write. And the thing that really shocked me is, I mean, I did it and I played it. And when you play with an orchestra, after each piece, the conductor will often point out players who had a solo moment, and he pointed to me to stand up, and I was at two things at that moment. I was ashamed because I was like, but I didn't really play it. And at the other and on the other hand, I felt like I knew the intention. I believed I knew the intention of Tchaikovsky, and I believed that I did what I could to bring it across. So where now, Kathleen, bring me back here. What am I talking about?
Well, I think that what you're talking about is that embodying has something to do with one's own felt sense of the moment. And in this case, for you, the moment was this piece of music. That for you to embody this piece of music that you were playing with the orchestra, it wasn't going to be embodied for you if you tried to stick to that score the way that it was written.
That's right.
But when you gave yourself permission to feel into, to experience the totality of the music and what it was like to be there with the orchestra and all of what you knew musically, you found a way to embody the spirit of the piece as you were experiencing it.
Yes, as I was able at that time as an adult beginner with a lot of ear, I could hear things, but I couldn't mechanically do them.
Couldn't do it right.
You're right, and I think that I'm realizing as you say this that one of the things that I can impart, because I am a composer. And wait a minute, is it almost time for us to leave?
Yes, it is.
Oh my goodness. Okay. One of the things that I'm able to impart to students or members of the academy is how to break things down and how to be able to find my way into them and how to be able to bring it forth in their way, which can often feel awkward because they're hearing something. No, it has to be these notes. And I'm saying, no, it doesn't have to be these notes. What are you trying to express in the world here? And is there a way to do it within our own capacity? And I struggle with that in other technologies. I somehow, I know it in my own technology, so I can impart it. And I hope that people who are facile in other technologies will break it down for me so they can impart the fundamentals in a way that will allow me to be able to express who I am.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thinking about it. We've been talking about it with creative projects, and you've mentioned technology. I think this is also true about when we start to speak up and express our own experience and our needs in relationship, that we have to start with the way we can say it. And then so there is this element of embodying it, being willing to feel it and undergo it and submit to it, as Jung says, and then imparting it, saying it as relationally as we know how in the moment, and then letting go and seeing how that lands on the other person, where that goes. And then if we have to, and then the dialogue starts.
Right. Right.
And the dialogue starts.
Wow.
And so in a way, what you're saying about your musical ability when you were playing this piece with the orchestra, and part of what you do such a beautiful job with in the academy, is really saying to people, what you can do now is enough, and to value that. And if you're doing it, embodying the spirit,
right,
and
right,
I would say being fully present,
right,
really being present in your body, which is what my embodiment circle really grounds you in practices to cultivate that sense of presence with oneself. Then you can impart the spirit. And Jung once said it's better for the right person to do the wrong thing than for the wrong person to do the right thing. Isn't that it's an interesting that maybe it's not so much important that we always get it just right, but it's are we the right person? And meaning, do we have the spirit that's called for in this moment? Can we really meet the other? Maybe we get it technically right, but we're wrong in that we're not showing up with the spirit.
Okay, I want to talk about this for the next like 5 weeks.
Okay.
This is really exciting.
Yeah.
And I know we have to leave like 2 minutes ago, so we'll leave now. Kathleen, thank you. I'm really excited about this and where it's going and what I'm learning from this conversation. And I hope that others who are listening are having the same experience. And I hope you will join us again next week when we meet right around 9:50 and 9:30 Eastern Standard Time for Jung at Harp. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.